Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa. This is our match preview for Liverpool v Aston Villa. Delighted to be joined by Abigail Rudkin. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. And you must be pretty happy. Champions League doing really well, and in the Premier League, top of the league by Man City 2 points, 7 clear of Arsenal and Villa. We'll put Villa in that mix as well. So, how are you feeling generally as a fan at the minute?
That's probably why I'm in such a good mood, to be honest. After that game last night at Anfield, it was just absolutely buzzing, and you just feel like there's no one that we can't beat now. I mean, I know this is a Villa channel, but I do feel like that as a Liverpool fan going into the game. It just feels like there's no one that we can't beat. And I think the issue with all the TV commentary that I keep seeing around Liverpool is it's like, when are they going to play someone? And I think we've literally, like, we've played Arsenal, we've just gone on 1-4 in the Champions League, and you think it's going to take us to probably play Man City or Madrid for people to finally say, oh, they've played someone now and this is the proper side that aren't put together.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously you've had a big change, so we're going to get on to Klopp and your new manager as well, Slot. But did you expect this? Because we've seen in the past of Fergie leaving United, and they're still scrambling around now to sort of get back on track. Arsenal the same. Like, how are you feeling the sort of like the transition?
That was definitely a big thing. I was so like apprehensive. Like I tried the thing for me was I tried to like I don't know, give on like a start where there's no pressure. And I feel like when I went on the overlap and I was like, oh, I'll take top four and a good cup run, like that'd be great for his first season. I was taking it very much from the view that Liverpool Football Club that have had Jurgen Klopp for so long and won absolutely everything that they can with him are gonna lose such a key figure, and all of his backroom staff went as well. We lost so many people like Pep Linders, and the goalkeeping coach went. We lost so many key people, and you just thought, right, this is from scratch now. You don't know how Arne's going to come in and play. You don't know how the players are going to adapt to him, whether they're going to like him very much. So I think I went into that thinking, okay, I'll take top four, I'll take Champions League football, and then a nice trip to Wembley. That was the way I went into it, and I was called so pessimistic by everyone. But I feel like I'm glad that I took that approach now, because now it's feeling even better that we're on such a good run, to be honest. And yeah, we're all warming to him very, very easily, to be honest. He's not like Klopp. I think that's a big thing. Everyone was sort of like, be yourself. That I think I went into it a little bit like, well, he's got to understand the fans and he's got to understand the club. But I think I just needed to slow it down a little bit and just make sure that he's doing it on the pitch, to be honest, straight away, and then he can start to warm to the club. But his comments on the atmosphere last night makes it seem as though he's enjoying it here, so that's good.
Yeah, so touching on Klopp, because it's a massive thing him leaving, and he was really successful, and he brought so much success. And I know from hearing you speak about him how much you appreciated him and your relationship with him. So Villa fans won't know that you are an artist, and you've created many wonderful paintings, and you was able to create one with Klopp, which he sort of saw. So you've kind of got a bit of a relationship and a connection with him, probably through that as well, which sort of enhanced your feeling for him. So talk to me about last season then, when he was leaving and when he left. Like, how did you feel about that?
I can remember standing at the top of the stairs and getting like 10 million texts from everyone saying, have you seen the news? Jurgen's leaving, and not believing it at all. Like, you just didn't think he'd leave because he'd signed that extension and said that him and his wife had agreed that it was far too soon for them to leave us. And you always felt as though he had that fight in him no matter what. And obviously he'd run out of energy, and we're all dead respectful of that, obviously. But it was a bit devastating, to be honest. We were all gutted because it's just the unknown. That's the thing about it. Now I'm looking at it from this side, and I think a lot of fans are thinking, with the way Jurgen plays and the decisions that he'd make, would we still be in the same position now? Would we have that many points? Would we be at the top of both of those leagues, the Champions League and the Premier League? Would we be playing this well? I mean, we might. But yeah, I think looking back on it now, we didn't need to be as worried. But I think you miss the man, like you miss the person that he was, and his press conferences and the way he was with the fans and stuff like that. Like obviously you've mentioned my experience with him, and I made up that I got that experience because basically I did two paintings. Basically I did one of Jürgen that he signed that I could keep, and he was just so lovely and he really liked me work. And then I did another one for the club, that the club commission that he got to take home and's now probably in his house in Mallorca, maybe, I hope anyway. But I think that moment getting to meet him, but I also got to say like my goodbye and like my thank you. But I think that did make it a lot worse on the last game of the season, especially when we only walked away with like one trophy. But that was an amazing run and trip to Wembley that we had. I wouldn't swap it for anything. But I think because we all thought maybe we could go on and win it all, and then obviously we have that really bad cup game against United, and you feel as though it all fell away there. You sort of feel as though he deserved more. He deserved one more of those Champions League finals to go his way, or one more Premier League where he's 1 point behind City just to go our way. And I still think about that Villa last game of the season, standing at Anfield, knowing that yous were beating them. We're beating City and we might have the league, and having Salah running over to where I was standing, I was a little bit higher up and asking us what's the score and stuff, and you just feel as though Jurgen the man deserved a little bit more, a little bit more in terms of trophies. But everything's looking fine now, and as long as he's happy and he's getting his energy back, it looks like taking a job for Red Bull higher up. I mean, and we're happy with Sloth. It looks anyway.
Yeah, I remember that game actually because Coutinho was doing you a favour as well. So he
Oh,
rolled back the years, but yeah, we sort of fell apart really. So Arnie
yeah.
Slot then, it seems like a seamless integration into what's happening. He's sort of just been able to just pick it up and perform and get you guys playing really well. So what would you say has been the main difference on the pitch tactically then? Because when I watch you, it feels like a little bit more possession. You're not sort of 100 mile an hour all of the time. But then what we saw against Leverkusen, you have got that in your locker where you can just roll through and blitz someone in, say, a 20-minute period. So would you say he's kind of brought a bit of Klopp, but a bit of his own sort of style to it?
Yeah, I think because he's obviously still dealing with the team that Klopp left. Like Klopp rebuilt the whole team basically because things have gone stagnant, and then but over the last two transfer windows, he sort of rebuilt it up, and Slot's been left with that because obviously we bring Chiesa in and he's not even playing for us. I'm not too sure what's going on injury wise with Chiesa, so he's dealing with what Klopp left. So it sort of does still have the remnants of Jurgen, like we're still sort of playing like a 4-3-3, that sort of thing. But I think he's bringing out the best in a lot of the players. Like Trent did an interview where he was saying that Slot pulled him to a side and he was thinking Slot was going to have a go on him about his defending, but he basically said to him, like, if you turn your body slightly this way, or you're 1 inch further forward than you usually are, then you'll be better at like collecting the ball back and winning your duels and things like that. And I feel like that's a massive difference that we've seen. It feels like Trent is a little bit more like a right back now, more than anything, which I think we were all expecting, right? Is this new manager going to come in and finally give Trent that opportunity to throw him into the midfield? And he hasn't done that at all. He's really utilised them defensively, which I wasn't expecting. And I think he's sort of gone the opposite to Jurgen, where he's picked Simicast over Robertson at times. I think he's sort of picked his favourite there. And then in the midfield, it's not too different, but I think you would say he's given Curtis Jones a little bit more time than Jurgen would have, possibly. I mean, that might be unfair to say, but Curtis has come out and he's like this attacking force from the midfield for us now. He's sort of being what I was expecting from Szoboszlai and McAllister more than they are, to be honest. He's putting in a little bit more of a shift, and now I feel as though he might be a starter on the team sheet. So there's little changes like that, but because it's still Jurgen's team, it's not too different. Like you can still see that there's muscle memory there, from the players. And yeah, so it's not a bad thing at all. I'm sort of glad. I mean, I was fully expecting things to be a lot slower than they have been, and for him to be getting to grips with things and trying different things. But it feels as though he's known from the offset how he was going to play us, and he's gone with it, and it is working. So
Yeah, I think from the outset, you've kind of touched on my next point. I was going to talk about like Gravenberch, Curtis Jones, Simicast, because I think it would be quite easy to sort of just play Robertson and play players that are sort of like tried and trusted. But the fact that he's found his own sort of players that can play in a position and develop them a little bit further, I think that's sort of like admirable, really. So, what do you make of him as a person? Again, as a Villa fan coming from it from afar, I think he's got quite a bit of charm about him, quite charismatic. Like his personality's starting to come through, and I really like it. And obviously, he's a bit different to Klopp. You know, Klopp at times looks a bit like rough and ready, and he's sort of got his cap on all the time. But he seems a little bit like he's got a different demeanor. So has that been a bit different to sort of like adapt to or not?
Yeah, it's definitely been different, but you can sort of see the Premier League's rubbing off on him now, like on the touchline when the referee's making decisions. Like for the first couple of games, he was very cool, very calm. You wouldn't get a facial expression out of him for a goal, maybe a slight smile. And now he's going absolutely mad at the touchline, which I think's really good, but he's going absolutely mad at the referees as well, which I mean, I'm sort of gutted to see that he's realising how bad some of the decisions that we've had have been. But then the joy on his face for the goals, and it's good to see that sort of personality coming out of him. But it is different to Jurgen. I think his press conference as well, he's so honest. That's something that I wasn't really expecting. Like if there's an issue if there's an issue with a player or I don't know, like someone's made a mistake, he will literally like Jurgen wouldn't out anybody. Like he wouldn't stand there and say, okay, this individual person made a mistake there. He wouldn't do that, but Slot's definitely doing that. And he doesn't say it in a bad way. You know what I mean? He'll just say, this was where the mistake happened and we'll work on it in this way. And, he's aware he's made the mistake, whatever. I mean, he did it for Quanta really early on. He's done it a few times. He will just say it was their mistake, which I'm not really used to that sort of blunt honesty. And at first I was thinking, is this gonna make the players sort of turn on him, thinking, well, you're outing me on the TV. You're saying that I've made the mistake, but it's sort of had the opposite effect, really. To be honest, I think the players trust in him, and if someone has made a mistake, then they want to correct it for him. So I'm liking him, to be honest. I am enjoying it.
Yeah, he seems like a cool guy. You mentioned something earlier about sort of the narrative of people saying when you play someone big, etc., or whatever. But I don't think that's the case. Well, I kind of want to see him sort of lose his shit a little bit. Do you know? Do you know how the Premier League works? Like, if he sort of has to get a bit angry, I kind of want to see that side to him. Do you think we could possibly see that, or do you think he's just super calm?
Do you know what? I'm not too sure because like at times with the referees, like he's even been booked this season. I think if I remember rightly, he is getting a little bit angry at decisions being made. And you sure to seeing that side of him, and you're just thinking like a few more bad decisions, maybe he will just sit in a press conference. Like you know what Jurgen's like with the 12:30 kickoff. You don't want him to have that narrative around him because then that became Jurgen's thing, and oh, Jurgen's angry about 12:30 kickoffs, and people brought it up to Slot when we had our first 12:30 kickoff, and we're like, oh, are you really upset that you got this kickoff? And he was like, well, it'd be stupid because what Slot's changed is basically Klopp would have them training at whatever time we were playing on the weekend, basically. So if we were playing at 8 o'clock, he'd have had us training at 8 all week. But Slot, it seems as though he's treating it as a 9 to 5 for the players, so they'll start training at 12:30 every single day. So Slot made the point of, well, if I didn't want them playing at 12:30, I'm really stupid to be training with them at 12:30 every single day. So I think little changes like that. But then after that game, you could just sort of see straight away, he was like, well, it being a 12:30 and things like that, he sort of brought that up. And I don't know. I'm wondering how long it'll take for the Premier League to wear off on him, to be honest, and for him to realise how frustrating it can be to be a manager because of those sorts of things. But maybe we'll see it. Maybe not. I'm not too sure. He is that calm and collected and honest that I just don't know. I just don't know whether we'll see that sort of angry side of him. You don't know what he's like in the dressing room at half time. I mean, we've been rubbish for the first half for the last couple of games, and you don't know what he's saying in the dressing room. I wouldn't be surprised if he was absolutely screaming at them the way they come out in the second half.
Yeah, right. I'm going to ask you a difficult question, right? And I know you're probably going to say all three. If you could keep one of Trent, Van Dijk, or Salah, which one are you keeping?
Oh, that is the question really, because I just can't see us keeping all three. That's the difficulty. I mean, Van Dijk is the one that said in press conferences, "I want to be at Liverpool." He said, "I want to be a Liverpool player for the next 2 to 3 years," and that's what you want to be hearing, and you're not really hearing that from Trent. That's the thing. I'd normally say Trent straight away because he's the youngest and he's world class. We can get longevity out of Trent. You know what I mean? And I feel like the way FSG work things, I feel as though they'd be more likely to give 300 grand plus a week to a player like Trent of his age. I don't feel like it's the FSG way to give like Salah, who's 32, to give him like a 3-4 year contract, which he probably wants for that amount of money. I mean, I wish I could keep all three of them. I honestly think we're most likely to give it to Virgil. I I think Mo wants to stay. He put, I don't know if you've seen Mo's Instagram post. He put a thing about how we should be top of the league, and how
Mhm.
if if these are the last few games that he plays at Anfield, then it was a pleasure basically, and he'll never forget that feeling. And a lot of people were messaging me saying, right, this is the start of Mo's goodbye now. That's definitely a goodbye. But I never saw it that way at all. I see it as bargaining. I literally see it as he's getting us fans behind him. He knows for a fact that if we're all saying to FSG, give him what he wants, like we did last time, there'll be uproar if by the end of the season he goes on a free, and we could have kept him, especially on the form that he's on now. I mean, there's times where he's still trying to sit players down and stuff like he used to, and he's not capable of that at the minute. But, a moment of brilliance against Brighton and things like that, he just seems to find that moment to be world class when he needs it, and when we need that. I mean, we were absolutely awful in that first half. We really needed that to happen, and I feel like the Anfield atmosphere pushed that on. But when you've got the opportunity to keep Mo Salah, you keep Mo Salah. So in my mind, I think Trent's gone from the interviews that I've seen with him, where he said things about like at first he said, "Oh well, I want to captain Liverpool," and then he did another interview where he was asked, was it to win the Ballon d'Or, win the Premier League, Champions League, or be captain of Liverpool, and he changed it. Then he was like, "Oh well, I've already been the captain of Liverpool," talking about when he's captain games, and I thought, that's changed. Like that's not what you meant when you said that the first time, and now it feels as if the narrative switched to you have done that now. And he picked the Ballon d'Or, and I don't feel as though if he was planning on staying, that would have been what he'd have chosen. And I think if you're gonna win the Ballon d'Or, I don't think he does it at Liverpool. But then if he goes to Madrid, he's got that many players ahead of him. If Madrid go on to win everything when he's there, if he goes, I feel like there's a few players in front of him that will get the shout for that Ballon d'Or. So I feel like Trent's gone. I think Van Dijk's probably the safe bet to stay, because I just don't think the club will give Mo what he's asking for. But what do I know? But I'll say Van Dijk. But if I could choose, no, I will. I'll say Van Dijk. I'll keep the captain. I'll say Van Dijk. That was a really
Yeah.
long way to go about
No,
it.
that's good. It's good to get you thinking, because obviously, from your perspective, I think that's why you're here, basically. So, before we touch on Villa, then touch on the Premier League as general. I feel like it's really competitive at the minute, and I think at this moment in time, we're starting to see like a little bit of a pattern of Man City look like they're wobbling a little bit. Arsenal are like 7 points behind you at the minute. That you're a couple of wins from taking them out the title race completely. So where do you see sort of like your competitors this season? Like, who are you watching? Like, when you're not playing, whose results are you sort of like looking at first?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I am keeping one eye on the Arsenal results, but when we've like with Jurgen, when we've been going for titles, it's always been City, and you know what City are like, they're relentless. When we're coming up against them, you just know you have to get 90 plus points a season. You can't afford to lose games. Basically, once we lost that Forest game, I wobbled a little bit, because I was thinking, if you lose that game, then that's not how you win titles. But then you've seen City have had a little bit of a wobble, obviously losing against Bournemouth, and then last night against Sporting, they were terrible from what I seen, giving away penalties as well. So I think the injury to Rodri is probably massive for City, and I think he obviously Ballon d'Or winner. I think he's the type of player that wins you a league. So I'm feeling slightly a little bit of hope, but because we've come up against City that many times and fell short, and we only did it once during the COVID season, which everyone seems to love to say, well, it was behind closed doors, you know, it shouldn't even count and things like that. Um, they are the ones that I watch. I do feel as though, because you've seen Arsenal fall away and fall at the last hurdle the last couple of times, straight away now we're back in it. Straight away I'm looking at City and I'm thinking that this might be our opportunity to go and get it, to be honest, especially with the way they've been playing, because they've been so lucky in some of those games that they have won as well. But yeah, I think obviously Odegaard's injury for Arsenal and things like that. I think the annoying thing for me is we had so many injuries last season and we were never given that excuse. You know, when we ended up finishing third, everyone was like, wow, well he had to do it for Jurgen's last season and he failed. But no one was giving us any of the excuses of the injuries, and it feels like Arsenal and City straight away it's like, oh well, they've got all those injuries. Obviously Liverpool are going to be doing so well under Slot because he's picked up from where Klopp left off with such a great side, which isn't what they were saying at the start of the season. It was, yes, Klopp's gone, Liverpool are going to completely fall off. So, it's always City. It's always City that you keep an eye on when you're a Liverpool fan, definitely.
So we've got a big game. Then we're coming off the back of, well, we were terrible against Spurs in the second half. So what are your thoughts on Villa last season, this season, and sort of what are your thoughts on the game? How do you think it's going to play out at the weekend?
I think after watching our game against Brighton, the thing for me is if Villa want to go and win at Anfield, they need to capitalise in that first half. Because the way Brighton could have got three, because could have got three in the first half, and the game would have been dead and buried. And that's what I've been thinking about the game. I keep thinking if Villa can capitalise in that first half, that just seems to be when we struggle for some reason. I don't know what Slot's saying to them in the changing rooms at half time, but they're coming out definitely in a much better position. So I feel as though if you're going to go and do that, from what I've seen, I haven't seen too much of it. That I haven't watched the full 90 minutes of your games, but from what I have seen, you're very up and down, and I don't know if is the Champions League gonna be detriment to you running the Premier League at the minute. I mean, it's really tight at the top. I think you're on 18 and you're in sixth, but so's third with Forest. I think they're on 18 as well. So I mean, you can't be doing that bad if you've got the same amount of points as third. Because from what I'm hearing, everyone's saying that he's on bad form. But then obviously you got that great win against Bayern Munich and things like that. I mean, I don't know how you feel. I would like to ask you: do you think the Champions League is gonna be the type of thing that impacts you in the league?
Um, it's a tough one because we haven't lost after we've played in the Champions League yet this season.
Mm.
So that sort of balance between doing that is okay. Um, Up until the Bournemouth game, we played really well against Bournemouth and we conceded in like the last kick of the game. And then we go and lose in the Carabao Cup and then we go and lose to Spurs. So that little week period has been a bit of a problem, but we are pretty consistent. So that's something that Emery's sort of built his time at Villa on. He's being consistent and we don't lose games in a row, which sort of gives me a little bit of hope for the weekend that we don't go on those patterns. But I think there is, like you say, I think there is that adjustment because it is the emotional aspect of playing in those high intensity games. You know, they're not like just a kickabout around the park, are they? It's
No.
Champions League and we've got Bruges next. And, you know, if we win that, we're on 12 points. So we're doing pretty well in that. But yeah, just I think in the Premier League, because it's so tight, I mean, you're looking at teams like Brentford and Nottingham Forest now that are doing so good. You have to be on it every week, don't you? And you can't have sort of like a lapse in concentration, really. So where would you say Villa can pose you problems? Is it on transition or is it just you starting games a bit slow? Because I watched the Leverkusen game and, you know, they were sort of not creating loads of chances, but they were in the game for a little bit, weren't they? And then as it went on, you just like literally blitzed them.
Yeah, I think we're struggling to get into the game quick enough. I think that's a massive problem for us the last couple of games. Just straight away, we're coming out not sort of. It doesn't feel as though we're ready for the game for that first half. It does feel like some sort of warm up, and I feel like if you can pose a threat to us there, I think that's probably a good opportunity. I think the midfield. I think we've had a little bit of a few problems with Szoboszlai and McAllister. I mean, I've seen I mean, it's opinion, isn't it? I think Szoboszlai is probably the weaker link in that midfield, and I do feel as though he's been sloppy in possession. You know, he's took too long on the ball, getting us dispossessed. I think a few bad balls from Szoboszlai and it'll just fall. It might just fall to a Villa player like it has, to be honest, and then you might be able to get us on the break possibly. I think those sorts of things. I mean, obviously we haven't got Allison in goal, we've got Kelleher, but he's probably the best number two in the Premier League at the minute. So I can't even say in front of goal. Like you might be able to do that because he's been absolutely brilliant. Um, even Trent's better defensively. Cause we're doing so well. I'm a little bit like we're gonna be fine. Like so. I'm not too sure, but I would say if you can sort of break down that midfield in the first half, while it hasn't warmed into it yet, I think that might be your opportunity. To be honest.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's been great chatting to you. And what I'll do is I'll put your socials in the description, so Villa fans can go and check your socials out and drop you a follow and check out the artwork. Because even though it's Liverpool, it is pretty impressive. Like, I think if you could do that for Villa or different clubs, you'd be a millionaire. So, yeah, your stuff is really good. So, thank you for joining me, and hopefully, I'll chat to you soon next year, and we'll do like the reverse fixture.
Thanks for having me.